Hi there team, welcome to this week's squad workout. We've got a lovely VO2 max focus session with some 60-30s, similar to a session that we've done earlier in this kind of phase of training where we did 40-20s. Very simply, it's 60 seconds on, 30 seconds off, sort of a VO2 max level. Go into a bit more detail in a second. This is my first session since the arrival of Millie, and things have been going very well, but I won't lie, I am a touch tired. But also, actually, coincidentally, this is a very good session for someone who's in my state or somebody who is perhaps lacking time. And again, I'll talk about that just in a second. But the workout is paused for me at the moment, so let's just get ourselves lined up. Timer gets to, at the top left, gets to 10 minutes. I've just been doing a little pre-warm up so that it's all a little bit less breathy. So you're ready to go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, starting the workout then. So we've got our normal 10-minute build, working our way up through zone 2. So starting at around 56% of FTP, so just actually touching into zone 1 there. So yeah, normal 10-minute build, every 2 minutes, just taking it up a nudge. I'm erg mode completely off, and now this is a session where it's dealer's choice as to whether you want erg mode on or off. It's a session where actually erg mode can be quite useful if you're feeling good. Just so that you really get time in that kind of uncomfortable 9 out of 10 zone, 10 being a full sprint. But yeah, we're going to talk about road bike fit and aerodynamics after a request from Nick. But just very quickly, just talking about the session and scaling a little bit. You know, I mentioned this is a good session to do if you're feeling a bit tired or you're short on time. Now, obviously, I can't jump out mid-session, but you guys can, because basically, if you're not feeling great or you are short in time, because of the repetitive nature of the sets, like this is a good one that you can kind of just jump in and do as much of as you either have the energy for or you got the time for. Because they're sort of short, sharp reps and all of them, I think it's a little bit of an easy one, mentally to kind of delineate and just stop, rather than if I take another example, doing like 4 times 5 minutes at threshold or something. There's like a real internal pressure to make sure we get each of those intervals done. Whereas this one, it's 2 times 8, so you've got 16 reps. So if you're like, oh god, I haven't got the last 2 in me, or I haven't got time for them, you've still got 14 reps at VO2 in there. So yeah, sessions like this are good. Just coincidentally, I hadn't picked it for this reason. It's just a really good session. But I just thought I'd just say a quick word there. So in my current state, another thing to say is also, if you are feeling tired, lack of sleep or whatever, but you still want to do a session, you still want a quality workout, but you just know you're not firing on all cylinders. As I said at the start, completely off from the start for me. I'm not even gonna think about erg mode, and that's just because when you're on a particularly tired state, it is just that touch easier to ebb and flow with the workout with each pedal stroke. Whereas, as I mentioned a few times, erg mode, it's hit and hold. You have to hold a very high cadence between 80 and 100 RPM, otherwise you start to go into that spiral of doom. So yeah, just a couple of quick little pointers really. We're all getting into the winter, illness and things like that coming around, young kids. So yeah, we all need to make sure we use these kind of methods, little kind of tips and tricks to keep you moving forwards. Because let's face it, you did 10 of these 60-30s, that's a good session, that's 10 minutes kind of pumping out VO2 max effort. So yeah, that's good. It's like, and you just got to see it in those terms. Anyway, right, so that's the session. So still warming up, still building up, 10 minutes as per normal. Then we've got some fast pulling efforts as normal, a little tempo sector, just to kind of keep you rolling through. And then we go into it. So the target power will be about 115% of FTP for 60 seconds, and then just 30 seconds off. Well, I encourage you to really keep your cadence high still, but those 30 seconds off will be dropping down to about 65% of FTP. So it's very much recovery, but not, that's kind of middle of zone 2, because what we don't actually want to do is drop you right down into zone 1, because it can be quite hard to get going again. So yeah, so we're doing 8 reps of 60-30, then we're going to have about a 10-minute break, and then we're going to go into the second round. So you've got 2 rounds of 8. Hopefully that all makes sense. So yeah, as I said, our chat though, our main chat, let's just talk a little bit about road bike positioning and road bike setup. And again, thanks to Nick for this suggestion. And this is actually an increasingly common topic I'm finding, because it seems to me that fewer and fewer people are buying TT bikes to do triathlon or time trials, what have you. I think a big part of that is the sort of disproportionate expense of a TT bike. But I think it's also that the aerodynamics and our understanding of aerodynamics has just kind of evolved, and the equipment has evolved, components have evolved so much that actually you can get a really good position on a road bike, but also stay comfortable. Whereas quite often T-bikes, even in the best will of the world, they're still pretty uncomfortable. You know, I love my setup on my TT bike, but I couldn't turn around and say it's comfortable, you know? Whereas on this, I've spent quite a bit of time recently setting this up. So it was just good timing again for this chat. This is my main road race bike, and yes, the one that I keep falling off. And yeah, I'm really happy with this now. It's taken me a while, and it always does. And you should always be prepared if you're tinkering your position, you're changing up things. Be prepared for it to take months to get settled. Okay. But as I say, road bikes have gotten so aero, so efficient, and our understanding of aerodynamics is kind of advanced so much that actually, I would argue, and this isn't a criticism of anyone, I promise you, but I would argue that actually a lot of amateur riders might be better off racing on a road bike, because the main consideration there is aerodynamics versus power production loss. Because as soon as you close that hip angle by dropping the chest, getting on the aero bars, that closed hip angle here almost inevitably means a loss in power production. So your FTP on your TT bike will be a fair bit lower than your FTP on your road bike. And that's why when I set sort of like a race target power in Ironman, or, you know, or half Ironman, quite often people are like, oh, that's very low. But it's to take into account the fact that your FTP on your TT bike is going to be a fair bit lower, 20 watts lower maybe, you know. That's just a guesstimate, that's not a real figure. So yeah, there's that real kind of balancing act between being able to produce power and then saving energy through aerodynamics. There is definitely a tipping point at which going to aero means actually you're not fast, and also you might be uncomfortable, so much so that it's slowing you down. You know, a classic example is for triathletes doing a super fast, super flat course like Barcelona, Copenhagen. I think California is really flat, and you just end up cramping up because you're spending so long on the skis on the aero bars, your lower back just explodes. Or, you know, another alternative is you end up having a terrible run because you've been in that position for so long that your hamstrings just explode. So yeah, there is this. I'm not going to focus any more on TT versus road bike, but that I think that was just kind of an introduction as to why I think this conversation is I'm having it more and more often, and what's actually a really good one to think about. Yeah, so I was talking about hip angle, and the reason that I say this is because really a lot of amateurs, I include myself in this at the moment, lack the mobility and core conditioning to effectively race on a TT bike, and also don't spend enough time on their TT bike to really adapt and produce their best power numbers. That last bit definitely applies to me. You know, I did a few time trials this year, and I was way off my best because I just hadn't spent enough time on the bike. You know, I remember the first one I did this year, my handling was all over the place. So I just wasn't used to having so much weight over the bottom bracket and towards the front of the bike. So yeah, I would argue that probably most, or maybe just a lot of amateur riders who lack mobility would actually probably get a better position on their road bike. Anyway, so first fast pedaling effort, so just 10 seconds. Don't worry too much about the power, just rev it up. 3, 2, 1. 10 seconds off. Just gonna put my fan on. Just realised I've forgotten a towel. Very well. Okay. Down, relax. That was number 2. Sorry, wasn't paying attention. Number 3 coming up in 3, 2, 1. Up we go. Really rev it up. About 110% of FTP, no, 100% of FTP. These accelerations. Okay, number 4. And relax. So I will continue the chat about bike fit in the long break between VO2 rounds. But for now, we'll just get focused. 2, 1. Okay, so now at tempo level, set these off. About 80% of FTP now. I'm just going to be rolling through. Erg mode on or off. Totally up to you depending on how you're feeling. So remember, it's going to be 8 times, 1 minute on, 30 seconds off. Really great VO2 set, this, because you can accumulate lots of time at VO2, but the dynamic nature of it, this means it seems to go a little bit quicker. Just feels like that anyway. Well, hopefully it does. Just about 2 minutes left riding at tempo, so it should feel like a 6 out of 10 at the moment. And then we're going up to a 9. About 1 minute and 45. So just last little swig of fluids. I was trying to find something that I can protect my bike, but I completely forgot myself. Just bear with me. And of course the fan keeps blowing off whatever I keep putting on. It's not happy enough. Alright, saying that to myself more than you guys. Just riding strong for another 30 odd seconds. So let's get into some good habits then. Get that chin up, shoulders down, relax the hands, cadence wise, well over 80, maybe into the 90s if you can, and just try and hold that throughout. Even when you're on the down sectors, the 30 seconds off, try and keep your cadence above 80, okay? It will help when you get towards the end of the session. Okay, here we go. So 115% of FTP, we're looking to hit the target, not looking to go above it. I'm just doing what I can. If you're erg mode off, don't stress too much. The first rep, a lot of it's finding the gear and just gauging your effort right. That's one of the benefits of erg mode. You have to think about it all. Last 25 seconds. Coming up to 10. Stay strong. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, ease off. Keep the cadence up. And it's one of the benefits of having erg mode off is that I can instantly switch down. There's no 5-second delay waiting for erg mode to turn off or simmer down. And switch into easy gear straight away and spin up. Okay, 5 seconds, then we go again. So shifting down into harder gear again. Off we go. This is round 2 of 8. Shoulders down, chin up. Seconds. $20. $10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Easing down, spinning up. Keeping that cadence high. Good job, guys. Round 3 in 10 seconds. 2, 1. There we go. Cadence high, remember. Let's get mine above 90 if I can. Shoulders down. Up. Halfway. 30 to go. $20. Stay calm. Stay steady. Last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Spin up. Well done, guys. You're doing really well. This next rep, and then we'll be halfway through the first set. So stay focused. Ready to go in 5, 3, 2, 1. Keeping that cadence up. Try and relax. Getting strong now. It's coming up to 30 seconds to go. Twenty. Last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Spin up. We're halfway through this first set. Just 4 more 1-minute efforts to go. Into the last 4 in 3, 2, 1. Off we go. Keep it calm, keep it steady, keep the cadence up. Just keep chipping away. Just 3 more after this, then we get a really nice long rep. Last 30. Twenty. Stay relaxed. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Well done. Just 3 more to go. And then we get a proper rest. Okay. Let's go again. In 3, 2, 1. Well done, guys. Halfway. 2 more after this. So stay strong, you're nearly there. 20. Stay relaxed. No shoulders down away from your ears. Keep the chin up. Decompress your airways. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Well done. Right, just 2 more then. Excellent job, guys. Spin up the legs. Don't allow mine to spin down too much. Keep it above 80. Let's go again. Ultimate time of the set. 3, 2, 1. Off we go. 9 out of 10 effort, remember. This is just the first step to working hard, but hopefully still within yourself. 30 seconds. Last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Oh. Gosh, I can tell that I'm not being honest. What I could in a while. I am supremely uncomfortable. I've spent too much time on a mountain bike and a cross bike. That's why I've got it on the turbo. So hopefully, as I start getting back into training properly, I can get used to the position. Anyway, 5 seconds, last one. In 3, 2, 1, out we go. Get out to power, and tell yourself to relax, and get chin up. Try and get 90 RPM and above. If you can. Halfway. Twenty. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo-wee. Okay, relax, spin up. Don't worry too much about power target to begin with. Just spin up the legs, get your breath back, go above 80 RPM, and just chill. So, we've got about 9 minutes now chilling. Just give you another 30 seconds or so to get your breath back. And then we'll get back into our road bike setup chat. So just spin up. Relax. Get the fluids back on board. Plenty of time to chill. Don't relax too much, get your breath back though, you know. Get your breath back and then come back up to speed. Because what we don't want is, because it's such a long break, don't want you go into recovery mode and get cafe legs. So yeah, first point about bike fit, about road bike. So I'm not going to tell you, unfortunately I can't tell you in a chat like this exactly how to set up your bike. What I can do though is kind of go through the areas to think about and common kind of pitfalls. So I think the first thing really is, if you haven't had one, or maybe if you are thinking about, you know, spicing up your road bike, or you're getting a new one, it's always the same message: get a proper bike fit, ideally on a rig, i.e. not on the bike itself, so that you can get your optimal data. And then with that, you'll be able to know kind of where that tipping point is between aerodynamics and power and comfort in that real tightrope. It's really hard to do that when you've already got the bike. I mean, you can still do a very good job, don't get me wrong, but that is the ideal scenario. Before you get a new bike, before you make any changes, get pro level setup, pro level bike fit, sorry, ideally on a rig. And then yeah, like, let's go through kind of like the main aspects of considering aero position and bike setup. Like, comfort has to be a real big factor, and so that means considering the frame size, making sure it's not too big for you. These days generally people tend towards smaller frames, particularly for aero positioning, because then you put a longer stem on, and yeah, just to be able to hold a little bit more of a kind of aggressive position more naturally with a slightly smaller frame. But we're not talking like 2 sizes too small. Maybe we're talking about if you're on the cusp, just going dropping down a frame size. You know, the main things with comfort are saddle height. That is probably the area that I think actually causes the most problems for people. Like, so often saddle height is incorrect and they start to get knee issues, back issues, whatever, depending on whether it's too high or too low. And then the other thing, you know, that's a really easy one, the saddle height. Everyone knows that is. One thing that people don't necessarily always appreciate is reach. And all that is, you know, people can often dictate reach in different ways, but just in simple terms, it's like how far you have to reach to be settled on the hoods like this and comfortable. So in terms of what's comfortable, one of the things you really want to check is like, is my bum on the back of the saddle? Okay, is my pelvis tilted? So at the moment on this, I might just drop my saddle just a touch. I can just feel like a slight forwards tilt on my in my pelvis. So I'm still working on this position. But another way you can adjust that is actually lifting the hoods up. So this, I've pretty much gone max with lift with the hoods. And so I might just need to drop my saddle just tiny, like a mil or something, just to kind of get rid of that tilt in my pelvis. So reach, yeah, how far you're having to reach across. And one way you can really tell it is, yeah, bum on the saddle and do your shoulders stay down like that in a relaxed way. Does that feel comfortable? Or they kind of pinned up like ears, because that tends to suggest that you're overreaching. If your shoulders are naturally graduate to your ears, and you're not able to comfortably keep them down like that without feeling tension in your neck. Okay. So stem length, talked about hood position, so you might need to angle them up in order to reduce the reach and to be a bit more comfortable. Then there's things like drop. So that's the drop in height between your saddle and the handlebars, basically. Now, historically, that was always the area where people wanted to maximize the drop. So if you look back in the early 2000s, you know, you had these insane saddle heights and then the handlebars were like down here. You know, Geraint Thomas, I always think about him when I think about that. You know, and people often like to suggest that the reason he used to crash so much was because his drop was insane and it was so far in front of the bottom bracket, like you would be on a TT bike, that, you know, when on sort of steep bank curves, you're just washing out. So you had too much weight forwards. Well, that's true, I have no idea. But I think it's just a nice little illustration of what can happen if you go with the drop, because the idea was getting low meant aero, and things have kind of progressed beyond that. There is a certain kind of truth to that. Like, basically what we're trying to do is to decrease the amount of frontal area exposed to the wind. So dropping that does bring your shoulders down kind of closer to the level with your hips, and that's kind of the goal. But like going super low, immediately that really compresses here, that kind of closes that hip angle and hurts your ability to produce power. And now the thinking is more about getting narrow, okay? Hence why I've got these narrower bars, which is the next thing to talk about. Because getting narrow is all about kind of reducing that frontal area, but also kind of stacking things up in one line, so you kind of manipulate airflow around, whereas you have a wide base, you know, so bigger frontal area and then bigger kind of wake behind you. So it's about getting narrow is kind of like the current sort of obsession. And you would have seen that UCI brought in a ban on super narrow bars, and basically what that ban is that the bars have to be 400 millimeters wide, kind of outside to outside here. Now these bars are Aerocoach. I bought these just before, like a couple of months before the ban came in, and they are just 400 mils with tape on. I haven't got a tape on here at the moment because I've been tinkering. So yeah, bit of a close one. I mean, I'm not really going to be doing UCI events anytime soon, but it's something to consider if you're doing gravel, you know, beating the world champs or something like that. And then the flare is maximum of 65 mils. On this, I've hardly got any flare because it's all very narrow, and I actually have some pretty strong feelings on flare. Shock. I have strong feelings on something. But basically, I think people have gone a bit crazy with the flaring. The whole point of the flare is actually about comfort. Like, it does help you get a bit narrower, but when you flare it in, it also means it extends your reach. So then you've got more issues. So I really think about flaring the hood as about comfort for your hands, and then sitting naturally in a cradle position, and really focus on actually moving to a narrower handlebar, if that is a consideration. And then the other thing I said was that in a measurement between the inside of the hoods needs to be over 280 mils. This is very much 275, I would say. So if I was to do something that competitive, which is never going to happen now, not like now I've got a baby, but I'd need to just push these hoods out a touch. And then really, when it comes to narrower bars, again, you might need to reduce your stem length. So the stem here, you might reduce that. I had to reduce mine by about 10 mil, so it's a reasonable amount. Just bring the whole thing back a little bit, again, so that I can make sure my reach is in my comfort zone. So yeah, so just come back to workout quickly. I will keep talking, but yeah, we've got about 20 seconds, and then we're gonna go up to tempo for a minute, just to kind of wake the legs up a bit before we get stuck into round 2. So I've just got 2 quick things to talk about on position. Hoods versus drops. It's a bit of a discussion there, because being on the drops isn't always more aero. If you've got good flexibility, actually quite often being in this sort of position on the hoods is actually more aerodynamic, because usually there's a flare outwards on the drops and you tend to be extended in your arms like this. And actually go back to kind of getting low, getting narrow. It's actually a bit harder on the drops because of that flare angle. It kind of pushes your elbows out. Whereas if you're on the hood, you can really kind of keep your elbows tucked in like that. But what you'll find really is quite often kind of changing between the two, depending on the scenario. Particularly if you're tucked in behind someone, getting on drops is quite good. You benefit from their slipstream, you're comfortable, you can reach the shifters. Whereas if you're really tucked in like this, it's quite hard to change gear. Even though you think, oh, I'm on top of the hoods, it should be easy. But that's that nature of being kind of really tucked in. Makes it a bit harder to kind of use your wrists. Right then, up to VO2 we go. There's one last point I need to make about crank length, but cover that very briefly at the end, because we are up to 9 out of 10, 150% VO2 max. We've got 8 rounds. It's about 25 seconds. Stay strong. Shoulders down, chin up. Ten. All the way through, guys. Good job. Okay, ease off. Keep the cadence up. This is the cloth that I used to clean my glasses, but it's now my sweat towel. The hood. You can tell I'm out of practice. Okay. Round 2 in 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Out we go. And guys, keep telling yourself to relax. Keep the cadence high. It's this sort of round of effort towards the end. If you've gotten into bad habits, you'll start to feel it. Sit. Try and stay on it. 30 seconds. 10. 3, 2, 1. Well done. I'm already quarter of the way through. Drop, guys. So 6 more reps. Just keep chipping away. Keep staying positive. And try and stay relaxed. Okay. Round 3. And 3, 2, 1. Thirty seconds, guys. Stay strong. Twenty. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Woo-wee. Keep the cadence up, above 80, spin up, just try and get your breath back. So that's 3 down, 1 more and we're already halfway. Five seconds. This one to get to halfway, come on. Right. Now 6 seconds. Twenty. Last 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good job. We're halfway, just 4 more to go. Spin up, recover, relax. I'll reset the clock in your mind. It's just 4 reps. Just think about that. Okay, don't think about anything else. Just 4 reps. It's 4 minutes of hard work. You know, I think you could probably do that on a good day at 115% without a break. So just think of it that way. I know it's tough. It's up and down, and it's purposely so. But you could do this 4 minutes on its own without break if you wanted to. I'm not suggesting we do that. Just kind of manage economies of scale a little bit. Anyway, another 35 seconds, and then we're already down to 3 to go. And then before you know it, it'll be the penultimate rep. So stay on it. Cadence upwards of 90. Another 20. 10. 3, 2, and 1. Good stuff, guys. Okay. Round 6 coming up. We're nearly there, guys. One more and then an alternate rep. Here we go, come on. Seconds. Nearly there. Coming off. On 10 seconds to go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo-wee. Stuff, guys. Right then, just 2 more reps. We're so close now, guys. Stay focused. Don't allow the mind to wander. Just think it's 2 minutes of hard work. If you wanted to, you could do that in one go. Sometimes, particularly at the end, catching that break can be a touch unhelpful. Just want to get it done. But let's do this now, okay? Penultimate rep in 3, 2, 1. Okay, halfway, 30 seconds. Twenty. 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, okay, just one more to go. Spin up for the final time. And last rep then. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Come on, guys. Stay strong. Stay focused. Up to power. Shoulders down, chin up. Finish off strong. Came up as a 90. That's it. Job done. Twenty seconds. Nearly there, nearly there. Come on, keep pushing. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Woo! And relax. Just enough. Keep breath back. And start getting the fluids back on. And just chill. Job done, guys. Really well done. I do like these types of sessions. They feel like they just go so much quicker than if I made you do, what, 2 times 8 minutes. I wouldn't set it at 115. It'd be more like 110 maybe. But I still, oh, it sounds pretty horrible actually thinking about that loud. 2 minutes, 2 times 8 at 110. I said an FTP. But it'd be great if you're a time trialist, but nah, part of me. I like the short punchy stuff. Yeah. stops me from getting into my own head, which isn't always the most helpful place to be. Anyway, right, so let's just whiz through a little summary of what we talked about. Just a quick reminder of what I said right at the start about this type of session and how to scale it. You know, if I was doing this on my own, I wouldn't have done the full set. Like I was done at maybe rep 12, I would have said. Probably would have called it a day, just because I could feel my legs going and the quality started to drop. And you know, really what you want to do is just maintain confidence. So it's better to do 12 good reps, 10 or 12 good reps and feel good about yourself and, you know, really quality, than trudging your way through to 16, particularly if you've got erg mode on. Like if you're in that sort of zone, you got to get erg mode off, guys, okay? All about quality work. And then we talked about a little bit about TT bike versus road bike. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone with that if you've got a TT bike. It's just kind of like the trend, the expense of TT bike and kind of mobility limitations that kind of prevent people from really getting the maximum out of that. And I would definitely include myself in that at the moment. My body's a shambles. I think if I try to do anything on my TT bike right now, I'd explode. Plus I'm 10 kilos overweight, so argument for my belly like hitting my quads when I'm on it. So, you know, hopefully I've not offended anyone about that. You know, it applies to me as well. Talks about road fit though, and getting kind of performance fit and getting aero and getting fast, particularly if you want to use your bike for racing in any description. All these principles fit for any kind of racing really. You got to start though with comfort. Get yourself a really high level bike fit. It's so worth the investment. I know that some of them are silly expensive, but it's like something you got to do once for maybe like until you get a new bike, basically. If you ever get a new bike, you know, unless any major dramatic mobility changes, positive or negative, you're good to go for a long time. So it's very much a good investment, even if it seems really expensive at the time. It's one of the best investments you can make. And within that, you've got the frame size, you know, making sure it's not too big. And if you're on the cusp, probably recommend going for the smaller frame. Saddle height has to be right. You know, that is the real kind of driver of fit comfort. I'll put it another way, kind of one of the most common reasons for knee pain and things like that. It's the next one, how far you have to reach out to sit comfortably on the hood. You should be able to drop your shoulders away from your ears and sit pretty comfortably like that with your bum on the back of the saddle. The drop between the saddle and the handlebars. We're not all about that these days, okay? That closes the hip angle, can impact your ability to produce power. And if you don't have that mobility, the power is going to drop off exponentially. We're more about width these days, getting narrow, so I've invested in these bars which are just about legal, thankfully. Not that I'm really at a level where it would matter, but it's just comforting to know. So just make sure if you're buying new ones that you're able to fit within those UCI requirements. If nothing else, people just take the piss out of you if you got something illegal. But like, oh, knocking up at the start line, it's like, oh, those bars aren't legal for this Cat 4 race at the MK Bowl. You know, who cares? But people complain about anything. I hate people. The width, just remember those UCI rules, has to be 400 mils. Width, maximum flare is 65 mils. I just wouldn't dick around too much with flare. It's all about comfort flare for me. The inner measurement though between the hoods should be 280. And yeah, if you go narrow than your current setup, you might have to reduce the stem length. Just remember that, so that you're not overreaching as it's going narrower. Okay. And then what I didn't talk about was hand position. I did very briefly about being on tops versus on the drops. Drops isn't always more aero. You know, you can often get much more aero tucking in the elbows on top of the hoods like this than being down like that, because that tends to encourage the elbows to drift out. But in reality, you'll probably drift between the two. Yeah, I mentioned flare. One thing I didn't mention was crank length. So the general kind of attitude is to move towards shorter and shorter cranks. Just be careful on that one, because there is some silliness going on. with the likes of Pidcock running like, I think it's like 160, no, more short than, like, I'm probably exaggerating, I can't remember, but it may even been like 145 mil cranks, you know, really crazy. And really what the crank length is about is kind of how big of a circle you're pedaling, basically. You know, again, it comes down to hip, closing the hip angle. So if you're pedaling smaller circles, you know, you're keeping this angle open a bit more so that you can produce more power and also maintain a higher leg speed. So you're basically looking to get more of your glutes and hamstrings involved rather than your hip flexors pulling up over the top of the pedal stroke, for example. Gets a bit more complex with that in terms of muscle inertia and things like that, but I won't go into that because no one cares. But yeah, crank length is another one to consider. Probably going shorter, so I know we're run over time, but I think this is actually really important. So standard size still seems to be about 175 mil cranks, and I don't know anyone who should be riding 175. You're looking at 172, 170, 165. Most people I think would fit within those 3 crank lengths. And if you're on a TT bike, you know, you blokes as well, we're probably somewhere around 165 with maybe 160 crank length on the TT bike. Again, because of that closed hip angle, you want a shorter crank so that you're not kind of, well, particularly if you're a fatso like me at the moment, so you're not hitting your quads up into your chest and you're not reducing your ability to produce power. But yeah, so that's all of it. Quick little kind of run through again, guys. I can't tell you how to set up your bike, but those are just some things to think about. And yeah, talk to your mechanic, talk to your bike fitter. Just remember that comfort has to be top of the list, because with all the aero in the world, if you just don't want to get on your bike or you're uncomfortable, you get to spend less time on it. And I think that is another point. I'm super uncomfortable at this at the moment because I haven't been on this bike for about 5-6 weeks. Been on, you know, a mountain bike or a cross bike, you know. It takes time to get comfortable. So if you immediately, when you change your setup and then you get on it and it's not immediately comfortable, don't panic, okay? It's going to take maybe a month, 2 months before you start to, your body starts to adapt, because that is what happens. Your body adapts. But just make sure that in the first instance, you can tinker around with most things as long as your saddle height is correct and your reach is correct. Okay, because those 2 measurements are the ones that if they're not correct, they're going to cause you pain, basically. You know, there's a difference between discomfort and pain. You do not want pain. Nobody should be riding in pain. Okay, that is not a thing. You should adapt your bike. You don't have to live with pain. Discomfort, TT bike, short TTs, 10-mile TTs. There's nothing comfortable about that, so you can get away with a bit more and be a bit more aggressive and a bit more risky. But yeah, anyway, that's enough of me chatting. Hopefully you found some of that useful. Got any questions, give me a shout. Otherwise, guys, well done. I'll see you next time.